There's nothing like Broadway, kid, nothing so grand, where each purple feather is perfectly found.
Hello and welcome to the Nothing Like Broadway podcast. I am writer-composer David Rackoff of the upcoming off-Broadway musical Nothing Like Broadway, and the Nothing Like Broadway podcast is the show where every week we pick a song from musical theater, and then we pick it apart to find out how the concept works, and how the music works, and how the lyrics work, and how it all works together. And this week we are doing a song from my show, so we can really find out what was going through my head when I wrote it, how the music works, and how the lyrics work, and how it all works together. The song is called Sing Along, and it is one of my favorite songs from the show. It's definitely the most fun to be in the audience for me to watch, because it really is a song that you experience. So a really quick summary of what Sing Along is it is a spy who wonders if he'll be alone forever, and then the lighting booth guy in the theater wonders the same thing, and unknowingly sings along with the spy, and then the audience is invited to sing along with the two of them, and it becomes a sing-along. So let me play a little clip of it.
As a secret agent, one knows he's paid to spy alone. But on a night like tonight, one grows afraid he'll die alone.
Yeah, so let me explain how this song came to be. This song takes place about a third of the way through Act 1. So it's one of the first songs. You hear the introduction song, and then you have a couple different characters have their introduction songs. And then this is where things start to settle into the storytelling, and sort of now that we have all the elements, here's how we're going to start combining them. Because the concept of Nothing Like Broadway the musical is that I wanted to see how creative I could be and how big I could make something with how few resources. So there's only 4 characters, there's 3 musicians, and basically no set. And so I wanted to see how creative can I be? And this song is where we start to combine the elements that we've introduced in a way that is hopefully new and a little bit interesting. And so the really short version of Nothing Like Broadway the plot, it takes place in a small off-Broadway theater. Our main character is Milo, who's the schlubby lighting booth guy, and he actually runs the lights for the show that we're watching. And it's what happens when 2 rival super spies, a handsome British bumbling kind of guy, like a James Bondy sort of person, and a lascivious, sexy Russian ruthless spy, both decide independently to hide out in this little cabaret theater, posing as cabaret singers. And then things sort of spiral out of control, and the whole fate of the world rests in the hands of our schlubby hero, Milo, who's the lighting booth guy. This song comes shortly after we've been introduced to Bixby, who is the handsome, dashing spy. And he is alone on stage, and we've only seen him as this sort of fun, he has a fun patter song. We did that on the show, actually, a few weeks ago, called The World's Most Famous Spy. He is wondering aloud, just to himself, kind of in soliloquy, what does it mean to have the life of a spy? And what it does is it gives this sort of shallow, fun, good time character, Bixby, a little more soul, and then it sort of teases that there might be a romance going on, brewing between Bixby, the handsome spy, and Milo, the schlubby lighting booth guy, because up until this point, there's been no romance, and we sort of assume that if there is going to be a romance, it's probably going to be between the 2 spies. And so this is the first tip-off that we get that, oh, wait a minute, it's actually, the romance might be happening. It's not explicit in this song, but it sort of lays the foundation for the fact that we might be having this very unlikely seeming couple might end up in the future becoming romantic, and then it sort of opens it out to the community of the audience. And so it's this sort of communal theatrical experience that we all, love. The show is very self-consciously aware that it's a show, and so all this kind of the world of theater and that we're singing songs is all very much something that is on the table to be thought about when you're watching the show and for the characters in the show. So I have all of my notes from when I was coming up with the concept of the song. So on the show, we always talk about the concept and then the music and then the lyrics. So I can actually go through, and instead of on some of these other songs that I've gone through and imagined what the writers were thinking, I can actually look at my notes and say what I was thinking. So I'm going to go to my first page of notes about this. So this is about the concept. I was what's the situation? Do they not know that the other one is singing? Or are they face-to-face somehow? The music should sound yearning. Maybe Bixby is actually rehearsing a song, and then Milo is singing along separately. So at first I was going to have it be what's called a diegetic song, which is where the song is actually taking place in the world of the show, but I ended up not doing that. So is it something about singing along with him, like how he wishes someone would sing along? Which I hadn't at that point realized that it was going to open up and be an actual sing-along until considerably later. So the entire concept for the song when I was writing it originally was just that it was one guy singing and then another guy is going to sing along with him. Definitely hint that it's secretly romantic, but we don't know that for sure yet. It should feel like there are candles everywhere, even though there probably wouldn't be candles. Is there something I can do with harmony stuff? I have in my notes here, like where you're actually talking about harmony or something tonically, which is something that I ended up playing with much later. So then I have like a trial verse here, the lyrics that I think was before I had any music, recounting all of the chaps I've had the privilege, this is Bixby, the British guy singing, recounting all of the chaps I've had the privilege to string along, but there's been nobody who hears, much less a person to sing along. And I sort of played with that, and then I was like, I don't like the negativity of stringing along people. It makes them sound like a dick, which is true, and we want to like this guy. And so then I sort of worked that for a while. Oh, and then I played around with some of the music, which I wanted to be sort of folky and kind of simple and beautiful, because I wanted this whole song to have like an easy feel to it. I didn't want it to be like really dissonant or really intricate. I wanted it to just feel like nice and easy, almost like playing a guitar around a campfire kind of a vibe. And then much later, I have a note here that I was like, wait a minute, there's sing along as a verb, and then there's sing along as a noun that's hyphenated. And I was like, okay, it's cool that there's two different things that have the same words, but they're stressed differently, and they mean different things. And then my note here is like, wait a minute, what the fuck? Exclamation point, question mark. What if we actually have the audience sing along and make it a sing-along? And then I was like, can I do that? Has someone else done that already? I don't think so. And so then I was like, okay, I'm very into this. It feels like when you see the song now, that's where I must have started from, but it wasn't. I was working on this song for like a month, just as one guy and then another guy singing along, before I was like, oh, wait a minute, there's a whole other word, sing along, stressed differently, that now is a noun instead of a verb, and all of a sudden, that would mean that we can have an actual sing along, which is exactly the kind of thing that I wanted to do to get the audience involved in this very like sort of meta, self-conscious, but sweet show. And so I was both proud of myself for thinking of that and also embarrassed that it took me a month of working hard on this song to think about it. And to be clear, the song was already titled Sing Along. And so that's the concept. And so basically, once I had that as the concept, I was like, okay, so this is a pretty heady concept for the audience to get. Like, you're not expecting when you go see a musical that you are going to be asked as an audience member to sing along. And also, like, I'm not a big, as an audience person, fan of audience participation. Like, that can be a little bit irritating or just like, it's like, that's not what I signed up for. So I wanted to make it really easy and gentle. So that was when I realized, okay, so there's going to be a verse and there's going to be a chorus. The chorus is the part that people sing along with. So that has to be really simple. Like the melody has to be simple, but also the underlying music has to be pretty simple because you can't ask an audience to, start to sing, to like learn this really complicated thing and to be expected to sing along immediately. So I was like, okay, so in order to balance this out, I have to have really simple music that's like just really simple chord structure. And also like the lyrics can't be that hard for the chorus. So then I was like, okay, so I want the verse now to be a little bit more complicated lyric-wise so that the chorus can be simple. All right, so let's talk about the music. So I knew from the beginning that I wanted it to be really simple and sort of folky. So I listened to a whole bunch of different folky kinds of songs that had just really, really like simple, beautiful chord progressions. And then I went with just, like it's like C, G, F, G. Like, does not get any more straightforward than that. A lot of susses, which a sus chord is like a C sus2 is the first chord. A normal C triad is C, E, G. This would be C, D, G. So it just makes it a little bit more interesting. And also this whole song is about yearning. Sus chords have like a character to them that they want to resolve somewhere. And so I thought having these yearning sus chords would be interesting, and then you can sort of play with resolving them. Sometimes the melody will resolve it in a way that the underlying chord that's playing doesn't resolve it. So that's kind of nice. You can play with the tension and stuff that way. And then I just found this very simple, it's actually a guitar pattern that I then sort of replicated on piano. There's no guitar on the show, but let me play you what this sounds like with, it's like a fake guitar, but I'll play it with a fake guitar here. right? Like pretty. And then I was like, okay, so let's put that on the piano, which sounds like this. And then for the chorus of this song, which is the same basic chords as the verse. So I wanted it to go, I want this to be very simple to sing, because I kept on actually having to trim it back, because I would write something that I was like, oh, that's really pretty, but then I would like play it for somebody and ask them to like help sing along and see if they can do it after like hearing it a couple times. And there were like a couple parts where people would always get tripped up on. But the basic original thing that's still in there is, if you feel the air, you feel it quake. And that's just going from the 5th degree of the scale up to the 1st degree of the scale. Which is very standard, but very pretty. And then what I did to make it a little bit more interesting, especially because the first 3 times I think that you hear it, it's sung by one or both of our actors. And so like, you don't want people to be bored. When you have like a good singer singing something that's really simple, you kind of have to like tart it up a little bit, or I felt like I did, so that it wasn't sounding so basic. And so what I basically did is I had the notes that are being played in the piano are all like a half step or a step away from what's actually being sung. So it makes it kind of challenging to sing and to keep in tune, but it also sort of grinds it in like a really interesting, sort of dissonant kind of way. So at least it sounds interesting to your ear when the real actors are singing it. And then when it was time for the audience to sing along, I made the arrangement a lot less dissonant. It's actually playing much of the time. It's playing the melody in the piano and then later violin. Until the last time. So the audience sings it twice? Or I think it's twice. And so the last time, I feel like, okay, they've gotten their bearings. So then I did start reintroducing some of the dissonance into the part. I've seen this performed many times now in public in different settings. And it's really cool. Like, it's really neat that, like, the first audience chorus, it's basically like almost like you're teaching it. We are literally teaching it to them. But then the second time, once the audience kind of has their bearings, then we start to reintroduce some of the harmony. One of the singers sings some harmony. And all of a sudden, the audience is now partaking in what is an actual musical experience that they are contributing to. So the verse is sort of complicated, a little bit. And so I had this pretty thing that I liked the way that the rhythmically that it went. After I'd written the entire song, I had to rewrite the first half of the melody for the verse because of a reason that we're going to find out when we talk about the lyrics in a minute. But so because of that, I then had to scrap the entire first half of every verse lyric-wise. I like literally just had to like delete, 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 delete. All right, so let's talk about the lyrics. So this is a song where prioritizing the things that are important. It's the concept. It probably sounds like the music is more important than the lyrics. But what I wanted to do, I'm really into like having things be balanced. So because the chorus had to be so simple, I eventually realized that I wanted the lyrics in the verse to be pretty sophisticated, pretty intense rhyming scheme, even though it's sort of hidden a little bit. Like it doesn't seem like it's that intense a rhyming scheme. But when we really pick it apart, as we're about to, you can see like, oh, this is actually a pretty intense rhyming scheme. And that was another thing that I had to rewrite. Boy, I really started over on this song a lot. I didn't realize that. It's one of those things where like, it's looking at my notes, I'm like, boy, I really like, there were like about 4 times in this song where I thought I was basically done. And I was like, nope, scrap about 60% of what you've already done, start over. And so I had written several verses that were like pretty and nice, and the music was pretty and nice. But it wasn't very rhymey, which, often like a pretty folk ballad isn't something that has a ton of like internal rhyme. And so I thought that was fine. But then once I was like, oh, I think this is kind of going to be a special song, or at least it's going to be special to me. I don't want it to just be like a pretty music song. I want the lyrics to be really like tight and a little bit show-offy. I mean, like there's another, it's like a less attractive way to describe that. But I wanted it to be kind of show-offy to people who know about lyrics. Like if you don't know about lyrics, I don't think you would think that there's very much rhyme in this song. But as we will get to shortly, there is a ton of rhyming in the verses of this song. And so I basically rewrote like the entire verses so that I could have it have a tight rhyme scheme, which is often hard. Like usually you associate like a patter song or a comedy song with lots of rhyming. and a ballad with not so much rhyming, because you want to have like the right words and have it be sort of not something that you're aware of as an audience, but like one of the tricks that you can do to hide rhymes, basically, is you can have it be syncopated, you can have it be like an A-B, A-B, or A-B-C, A-B-C rhyme scheme, rather than having like rhyming couplets. Like if you're doing a patter song and you want to get credit for having a ton of rhyming, couplets are like the way that the audience understands, oh, right, one line, and then the next line rhymes with it, another line, the line after that rhymes with it. Like that's how most audience members experience rhyming. Whereas if you have something that's rhyming the first and the fourth line of a verse in every single verse in the same place, the audience is sort of only subconsciously aware that it's rhyming. And so it makes the character seem either smart or like that the ideas that he or she is expressing are, there's just something right about them, like something, not like correct, but just something that like exists in the universe almost in like a mathematical way. Okay, so let's look at the second half of the first verse. This is Bixby singing. Could there be an ally whom I would care to bring along? Oh, let's play it.
Could there be an ally whom I would care to bring along? And if I started to sing, mightn't they dare to sing along?
Okay, so the words are, could there be an ally who I would care to bring along? And if I started to sing, mightn't he dare to sing along? And so there's something called enjambment, which we've talked about before, which is where the line continues on past the rhyme. So could there be an ally whom I would care to bring along? The rhyme is happening, whom I would care to bring along. And then the next line is that if I started to sing, mightn't he dare to sing along? But the rhyme happens, and if I started to sing, mightn't he dare, the rhyme, to sing along? So care and dare, and bring along and sing along are the rhymes. And so you might not even notice the one that's the care and the dare because it's in the middle of a sentence. And then also bring along and sing along is called a triple rhyme, which is because it is a 3-syllable phrase. The first syllable is where the big stress is, and that's the part where the rhyme happens, bring and sing. And then along is the same because everything after the stress in a rhyme has to be the same. So if you're having like matter and patter, right? Adder and adder are the same. It's just where the big stress is at the very beginning that are different. One of the important things in this song that I kept on going back to in my notes that I'm noticing is the tone for this song, because it really does have to be sweet and heartwarming, but it's also a little goofy and also a little meta. And so like the tone for this, like originally I think I mentioned earlier when he was talking about stringing people along, I was like, ooh, that's kind of hurting the mood of this. It's not sweet anymore. Like that's kind of a jerk thing to do. So I wanted this to be open-hearted and hopeful. Okay, so here is, in one of my like pages of trying out different lyrics, I have, as a mystery man, one knows he's paid to spy alone, but on a night like tonight, I grow afraid I'll die alone. And then I have a note that says, oh shit, spy alone and die alone is like the right tone. It's like goofy, it's yearning, it's soulful, but like it's a silly thing to spy alone is such a, I don't know, just like such a silly phrase in this serious context. And then die alone is like, whoa, okay, so Bixby is somebody who has deep, big picture feelings, because prior to this, he seemed a little bit more like a silly fellow. And so then I was like, okay, I really like this, but mystery man is just not the right, like, what does that mean? But that fit with the stress pattern that I had already established and written other verses to. And so then I'm like trying to come up with all the different phrases that would, basically I need to set up spy alone. I need to already introduce the fact, just in this song, even though we know it in the show, that he's a spy. What are words? You can't use the word spy because you're saying spy alone. So then I'm just like, have like pages of like me like agonizing over what are other synonyms for a spy. And it's like secret agent is the one that I really liked, but it didn't fit in the stresses. So I have all these different things, and I'm like her Queen's Secret Service or like whatever. And then I'm like, no. It really kind of has to be, as a secret agent, one knows he's paid to spy alone. And so then I'm like, fuck, secret agent doesn't fit. Like, so one of the things when you study this stuff is you learn like what the stresses that you have in the melody are, and then you can look at the stresses in the word that you want to use or the phrase you want to use, and if they don't line up, if there is nowhere in the song, I can put secret agent anywhere in the line, but there is no place in this line rhythmically that the phrase secret agent will ever fit. Like you could spend a year, if you are married to this rhythmic pattern, you're never going to fit the word secret agent in there. And I was like, ugh, I can't find another word that works to set this song up. And it's the first line. It's like the third and fourth words of this song. And I have like, oh Jesus, I need to rewrite the first two lines of every single verse to make secret agent fit. And so then that's what I did. And I'm glad that I did. You know, it's one of those things that you sort of like was so painful at the time. So then you're like, okay, so as a secret agent, one knows he's paid to spy alone. So now then every other first line that I'd already written of this song didn't work. I had to rewrite them, but like whatever, big deal. So you do. And so that's what I did. So once I got secret agent to work, I was like, okay, so now we have, as a secret agent, one knows he's paid, a rhyme, to spy alone. But on a night like tonight, one grows afraid, the rhyme, he'll die alone. And then spy alone, die alone. And so that was basically the pattern. But then again, because I wanted this song to keep building and progressing, to go from one person to two people to the audience, I was like, is there something in my like lists and lists? I've talked about this a million times on the show. I make lists and lists and lists of rhymes, of ideas, of things that rhyme with other things that I might want to use. And I had tonically and ironically, which did not end up in the song, but there was something about that where I'm using like musical terms or like songwriting terms that we can then use them in the literal way that they're being spoken of. So I wanted this to be very, like, sort of hit you over the head with the dramatic irony of the characters not realizing what we as the audience realize. And that's part of the fun. There's several points in the show, in fact, there's a lot of points in the show, where part of the fun is that the audience is realizing something right before the characters realize it. And so it's like, there's something really fun and sweet about watching a character mentally piece together an important piece of information that we have just realized as the audience right before that. So the second verse is Bixby, who says, maybe he's a kind soul, a gentle gent who'd hum along. Bixby is unaware that Milo is doing this, but in the light booth, Milo hums, which is what the piano would have played had he not hummed it. And then Bixby says, in my adventure of life, perhaps he's meant, which rhymes with gent, to come along. So we've got hum along, come along. And then Bixby says, might he sing the same tune, but be, I guess. And then Bixby says, a word apart. Milo says, a word apart. And then he says, or is he closer than that, a little less, a third apart? And so what's happening here is there's two things that happen with the exact same stress pattern in the exact same place, but a word apart, which then Bixby sings in like almost like a round where he's like it's staggered, literally singing a word apart, and then a third apart, musically a third, like the first degree of the scale and the third degree of the scale. So they're harmonizing. And so I was very proud of that because there's not that many things you could do. If you have the phrase, your phrase with lyrics on it and that's a melody, you can either slide it to the right or to the left, which then puts it a word apart, or you can slide it up or down, which puts it so that it's harmony, which is a third apart. And to get those two things to rhyme with each other, a word apart, a third apart, I'm going to play you that part.
Might they sing the same tune, but be, I guess, a word apart, a word apart. Da-do,
Da-dee-doo.
or are they closer than that?
A little less,
A third apart.
I'm very proud of that, you know. Sorry if I'm patting myself on the back too much, but I was very proud of that. And then the next part that was really tricky, that again took a ton of, I just like have pages and pages of notes where I'm just like agonizing over and like having like an okay version of it that's not great. How do we now introduce the idea that the audience is going to sing along? So in my notes here, how do I get the audience to take the hint? Like even if you say, hey, sing along, you're still thinking, wait, is he serious? Does he mean us? Are the other characters from the show going to come out and start singing along? Is that what he means? Nobody wants to be the first person in an audience to like start to sing out loud. And so I'd have to be like really direct. And then I'm like, okay, so wait, what is the audience saying? And they're like, does he mean me? And then I was like, they sit and wonder, are we supposed to sing? And then I was like, okay, so that's where I sort of was. And this is one of those things that I just worked until I got it because I had my stress pattern now established, but I really wanted this to be clear. So they now sing, all the silent people I want to hear, the most to sing. They sit and think to themselves, does he mean we're supposed to sing? Here and we're, most to sing, supposed to sing. That was something that I just like spent like weeks on because I just couldn't get it to sound natural. Because the last thing you want is for it to sound like fishy when you're doing this very fishy thing to the audience. Milo takes it upon himself to be this sort of conductor of the audience. So it's a sort of sweet moment for Bixby, even though he doesn't really realize it during the actual song, that he is surrounded by much more potential love than he ever thought that he was prior to this. So we were supposed to have a workshop of this in March of 2020. And so it was like I was on the way to the airport to go to where the workshop was going to be in Florida, in Tampa, from New York. And I was, it wasn't on my way to the airport. I had called the Uber, and you've been hearing all this stuff about pandemic or whatever, but I'm like, whatever, we're having our workshop in 3 weeks. I'm going. And so then I finally, at the last minute, was like, wait a minute, maybe I should just wait till tomorrow because who knows how this thing's going to shake down. And so then we postponed it for 2 weeks. Ha ha ha. Printed up new material, new flyers and posters and stuff that had the 2 week later date on it, thinking it was going to be a 2 week delay. Ha ha ha. And so that sort of sucked. So after all lockdown stuff was up, we then went ahead and did that workshop in Florida. And this song, as you can imagine, coming out of all the lockdown stuff, having the audience sitting in a room, singing together, it was just really beautiful. Like, it was really, like, it wasn't written with that in mind, but when performed in a room with all these people, and also, like, that was the first time that it had been performed in public. We had done, like, a video online during lockdown that was kind of cool. We had people, musicians from all over the country and singers from all over the country, or no, over the world, sorry, all over the world. We had, like, yeah, it was really cool. We did it as, like, a fundraiser for Broadway Cares. So that was really cool and exciting, but we hadn't actually done it in a real room where, what if people don't sing? Like, what is this going to be like if this falls flat on its face? So it was sort of terrifying sitting in the audience watching that. But then when people started to sing along, and sort of you start to, as the audience gets that they're going to be asked to sing along, there's like chuckles and like a little bit of nervous laughter, but then they start doing it and it sounds really lovely. That's really one of my favorite like moments in theater that I've been involved with ever in my whole life, was that moment where people started to really sing along in this theater right after lockdown with the actors on stage. You could see that, because, you know, they're worried too. Like, the guys playing Bixby, it's like, he's like, I hope people sing along to this because it's going to look real weird if there's, 2 minutes of me on stage and people are clearly supposed to be singing, but it's just me. That's going to be uncomfortable. And so you could just see everyone's like sort of face be like, oh, this is working, this is working, this is working. And it was really cool. It was a really special moment. So this has been the Nothing Like Broadway podcast. Thank you guys for indulging me in talking about a song, an unusual song that I wrote myself and I'm proud of. Like, this is definitely one of the songs that I'm most proud of just because it combines the sort of clever funniness with a sort of earnestness that I sometimes am a little bit reluctant to put into a song. Like, the sort of clever weirdness of this song, I think, gave me a little bit of license to be really earnest and really sweet. And I feel really earnest and sweet about the song, especially when it is performed in public. And so let's go out listening to... Oh, we can listen to the whole song. Right, it's just me, right? I normally have to, like, worry about the copyright and just play, like, 20 seconds of it, but it's my copyright. So let's listen to a live recording of the song performed at the Theater under St. Mark's in the East Village, performed by Lorenzo Pepino and James Schultz from the musical Nothing Like Broadway.
It is the life of a spy, content to wander the earth, forever apart. As a secret agent, one knows he's paid to spy alone. But on a night like tonight, one grows afraid he'll die alone. Could there be an ally whom I would care to bring along? And if I started to sing, mightn't he dare to sing along to help me sing my song? If you feel the air, you feel it break, you feel the tremors in the ground. If you hear my heart, is a kind soul, a gentle gent who'd hum along. My adventure of life, perhaps he's meant to come along. Might he sing the same tune, but be, I guess, a word apart, a word apart. Da-doo. Or is he closer than that? A little less, a word apart. Help me sing my song. If you feel the air, you feel it quake. You feel the tremors in the ground. If you hear my heart, you hear it ache. But maybe if you learn the sound, you'll sing along. All the silent people, I want to hear them all.